everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Superpowered Fancast. This is Darren. On this episode of Superpowered Fancast, I am speaking with comic book writer Zack Kaplan. Zack Kaplan is the writer of comic books including Breakout from Dark Horse Comics, Dark Empty Void, Kill All Immortals, Masterminds. But in this episode, we're talking about his new series, Only the Savage Are Left. Now, in this series, the world is kind of taken over by a virus, and violent, savage creatures and infected remain. And it's a great series. It's also like a love story, a post-apocalyptic thriller, a monster. It's got a lot going on in it. It was beautiful art by Raffaelli. So, without further ado, I just want to get into the conversation. We talk about not only Zach's comic book journey, but also things that influenced him, the things he likes to write, his journey to the comic book industry. And I just want to jump right into it because I think it's a great book. And the first issue actually comes out the day this episode airs, so it'll be Wednesday, June 3rd. So I recommend you pick it up. But without further ado, here is my interview with Zack Kaplan. Zack Kaplan, thank you for coming on Superpowered Fancast. I really appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me. Thanks,
Right.
Darren.
Thanks. I really want to get into your writing, but the first question I always ask is I'm interested in kind of the thread of where we go from where you were to Only the Savage Are Left. So the first question I always ask is, what was your comic book journey? Like, what was it something where you picked up comics as a kid? Was it something that you developed into later in life? Like, kind of what was that journey for you?
I was a kid of the 80s, so very much viewed comics at the time through the same Saturday morning cartoons that I was watching. So definitely into X-Men and G.I. Joe and anything that started on the television. Then I would go, oh, this has got a comic thing. So definitely, was into that, but certainly. And then I do remember as a teenager, Spawn, I think was my first like non superhero thing. Certainly not, something that was not on television. But other than that, that was as far as I went until college. After college, I kind of discovered that early 2000s Vertigo era, and fell in love. I was just like, oh wow, why didn't anyone do this? Comics are awesome. And so, yeah, read a lot of stuff like Why the Last Man and Preacher and that whole era. And I think that was when I got inceptioned or incepted the idea of like, this would be cool to do a comic. I went to school for film and TV writing, and I came out and pursued film and TV writing a lot and had a lot of things that kicked around in development, all the kind of stuff that happens that never made it. I never had anything made, but I had a lot of things that were cooking. And so at the same time, I was like, oh, I'd like to make a comic, and I tried for years to make a comic. I tried to get in to make a comic, but I never thought about being a full-time comic creator until I made my first one. And that was when that unlocked the comics community, conventions, the experience of collaborating with artists, and I just fell in love with so many aspects of it. And that was 2016 when I first came on with Eclipse.
Nice. And kind of what was that collaborative process like for you? Like for the first time when you're like sitting down with an artist, was it something where you dictated what you wanted to see, or were you able to kind of trust the artist to create your vision based on what you?
Yeah, I mean, I was nervous as hell because I had never done a comic before. I had written a ton, so I was very confident in my abilities to tell a story. But in terms of like, how many panels should this be, and where are these panels supposed to go, and trying to feel my sea legs or my comic legs, I was definitely nervous about it. And how many words can I put on a page and all these, it was very bare bones kind of questions. Um, and I had a great artist. Giovanni Timpano was my first collaborator and co-creator on Eclipse, and um, we had a great dialogue back and forth over email. So I mean, I would put down what I thought it could be on the script, and I think we slowly developed a back and forth. He'd share ideas, and I'd see layouts, and I'd say, oh, what about this, or let's try this, and we found our way together, and I learned the partnership of it all, and yeah, it was a great experience, and I think we got better, and I learned things like writing to the artist, understanding what he likes to draw, and writing towards that. I found out he loved to draw detail, and I loved world building, so suddenly it was like, oh, well, this is great, let's go. And yeah, I think I inherently went in knowing that this was my collaborator, my partner, and so I didn't come in being like, "Hey, here's my thing, draw this." As much as I'm also just a very collaborative person. Like I like to talk things out. I don't like to just assume that the first thing's the right thing. So I don't like to assume that my script is like the final thing. I like to say, "Hey, here's the script, but if you have ideas, if you think that a panel should be divided or expanded or some different layout, like let's go. I want to hear that stuff. I want to hear if there's a better idea there." So I definitely brought that energy, and I think that then over time that made me a better comic creator.
Yeah, I've always been fascinated by that, especially when the way you said it, like writing for the artist, is I've always wondered what the difference is between kind of writing the story the way you envision it versus writing, like what do you compromise when you're writing a story for someone else to draw, to bring out that vision. So that's incredibly interesting to me. I think comic collaboration is probably the biggest thing that interests me, not only in the genre but also in the comics themselves. Because I always look at the writer and the artist as the co-creators. Like
Yeah.
so, yeah. So
I
and
think I think you also like whether some writers might do this subconsciously and some writers might not do it all, but I think I try to think about what each artist is bringing, like the type. First, you think about like what kind of energy and atmosphere they're bringing. Like even on my first two books, Eclipse was a completely different feel than Port of Earth. Andrea Moody was my artist on Port of Earth, and like learning, oh, Andrea's like really sketchy and he likes to kind of have this frenetic kind of energy. And Giovanni is gonna love these kind of establishing shots and loves the detail of it all. And so that made me write them differently, like Eclipse is gonna have more establishing shots. Port of Earth is going to have more like claustrophobic in with the characters during the middle of the action kind of shots. And so I liked to try to see where the artists like to put their cameras and how they like to capture the energy of the page and try to set them up for that. So, yeah, it's cool. I mean, that's one of the reasons I like to work with so many different artists. I've worked
yeah.
with a lot of different artists over, the 15 or so different books that I've done. And it's always so fascinating to me to like partner with a new artist and see their style and be like, okay, here we like, okay, Stefano Raffaele likes to do this. All right, I see it. Let's go. Let me give this to him. Let me give that to him. So yeah, I mean, but that's what makes comics so great. Every partnership is different, and then it brings a different sort of result to the book.
Yeah, and I see kind of that kind of both of those visions in Only the Savage Are Left, especially in the first issue. Like I see there's a lot of like really great establishing shots, but then there are like some just really just in there, especially with a lot of action. It's just kind of like grounded like right in there one on one. So
Yeah,
I can definitely kind of see that. But going back to your journey into the industry, like kind of like
yeah.
going from when you finish Eclipse, like kind of what is the pitch process like for something like that? I mean, I'm always interested in how an original story.
Before,
So
what was the pitch process before Eclipse or once I got Eclipse going and I
yeah,
started to,
once I think kind of either like, did you pitch it before you got it going, or were you already kind of working on it and said, "Hey, this is what I'm working on"? Like, kind of,
I
yeah,
I pitched a written pitch. I didn't have an artist. I didn't have anything. I had an idea that was fleshed out of what it could be as a comic. And I had pitched so many different comic book companies for a decade. But I was very fortunate enough that I got this pitch in front of Matt Hawkins at Top Cow and Mark Silvestri. And I think it was a cool visual hook. I think it was a cool
yeah,
visual hook. And it's like with sunlight burning people alive. Matt got it. He said, "Okay, I get it. That's really visually cool and interesting. This is a different world. I haven't seen this before." And he said, "Okay, look, I'll give you 4 issues. You can do a 4 issue miniseries. We'll see what happens with it." And so I was super pumped. I had always thought it was going to be 4 issues. Like that was what I was planning. And then the first issue, I fell in love with it, and it did very well. It had huge numbers at the time, and that we sold the rights to Robert Kirkman of The Walking Dead right out of the gate.
yeah,
And so from there, we decided that Eclipse was going to be an ongoing and or do more. And then he said, "What else do you have?" And I pitched Port of Earth as literally an elevator pitch, and he said, "Great, let's do that." Um, but from there, I started to branch out. I branched out to Aftershock Comics, and that was when I first got my taste of like pitching. And I think I learned as I went, but I was also pitching written pitches I didn't have artwork at that point. I would just pitch a 2 or 3 page pitch of an idea of what it is, and writing up the basic synopsis of what the series could be and the hooks and what readers it would attract and what the aesthetic could be and those kinds of things. And so I landed some with Aftershock, um and then a couple years later I landed something with Dark Horse that was Breakout, and I landed with Vault Comics, and I did something with Scout Comics. And so I started to get going in terms of pitches and stuff. And I've learned a lot since then as well. And I also have changed some of my tactics. Some of my projects I started to develop with artists first.
right.
John Pearson, we developed mindset first, and then we took that around to places to see, and Vault snatch that up. But yeah, I think um, the pitching process is interesting. I mean, I always tell, if you're out there and you're listening and you're an aspiring comic creator, I always say, as little as possible can be really valuable in the beginning, because these editors and publishers get inundated with stuff. And so establishing a conversation can be really, really important. So giving an editor an elevator pitch just to start, to just say, "Hey, I got this idea about a monster apocalypse kind of book. It's kind of like Walking
Mhm.
Dead, but it's like we see it from a young man's point of view. It's a coming of age story, and there's a catch. You can save yourself from turning into a monster. So it opens a morality. What do you think about something like this? Would this appeal to you? I feel like starting it off just like that. It's so they can't. If you get an email like that or you hear that, it's like right off the bat, it's so easy to respond to. It's so easy to say, "Yeah, you know what? That's interesting. Sure, I'd take a look at that." And then rather than send a whole bunch, you can send little. Here's 1 page synopsis. What do you think about this? Here's just a little bit. I mean, generally, I've learned that you don't need. So I think early on, I maybe even overwrote my pitches, and I've learned to kind
Right.
of exactly how much to write and share. If you're putting art together, though, I mean, some ideas really benefit from just having the artist go, "Look, here's what it's going to look like," and then everyone go, "Oh yeah, okay, I see it. Yeah, that's awesome." So,
Mhm. Well, one of the stories um that I read from you that immediately got my attention was that first arc of Kill All Immortals. And I just kind of like, you don't have to go like through the whole story, but kind of um what was the idea behind that storyline?
it was fascinating because Kill All Immortals is my most action oriented
Yeah.
book, really. I mean, in terms of a character helming an action series, and it's been one of my most successful books, hands down.
It's
It's now
definitely
going to,
cinematic, and I think that's one of the things
yeah.
that kind of got my attention when I started reading.
Well, yeah, I think eh, from building the concept, it started just as, man, wouldn't it suck to be stuck in an immortal family that is barbaric and you can't stand them? Like, what if you were stuck in a murderous gangster style family and you couldn't get out because you can't die? So that really sucks. Um, but it wasn't until one thing I like to do with all my books is ask, how is the idea, like the device, like whether it's mind control or alien arrival,
Mhm.
like what makes it fresh and new in today's world? And so, okay, immortality, what is modern about immortality? And it's like, who is immortal? Are we immortal? Do we have immortality? And rather than veer tech, it was like, oh wait, we kind of have immortality today, and that is billionaires. Billionaires
Right.
pass on their legacy and wealth. They never really die. They live amongst us like gods. And so that was okay. What if this is a billionaire family, and billionaires is a metaphor for immortality, and then setting their roots and their heritage in Viking culture kind of felt very attached to the barbaric nature of billionaire capitalism and how ruthless they are. And so it all started to take shape. But I think the one last ingredient you touch on was the aesthetic. There are
Yeah.
so many ways that the aesthetic of this book could have made it feel campy or over the top. And it was really watching Succession on
Yeah.
HBO and seeing the very sleek, very subtle kind of luxury and how subtle it was, that I was like, okay, this is the tone. It's not flashy. It's just wealth just dripping and personified. You see the super yachts, you see the mega mansions, you see the clothing, but it's not gaudy. It's really refined. And bringing that energy, and then the cover series where it looks like they stepped off a GQ magazine, like it really made the whole thing feel fresh and modern. And I think that was what made readers so excited about it. Was, when you pitch it, you're like, hey, you want to see a story about immortal Vikings fighting? That could go campy so
Yeah.
fast. So bringing that aesthetic, you go, but we're going to take ourselves seriously a little bit. This is cool. It's got a cool vibe to it.
Right.
Yeah, that really was the final
And I
ingredient.
think that was one of the things that also kind of appealed to me reading it the first time, is because like that level of power from those characters was not something ostentatious. It was something that built over time, and you could kind of, and I think that actually made it even more insidious as far as like
Oh yeah.
as
You know,
far
I
as
talked,
who these characters were.
yeah. Yeah, I in the story design, Frey Aswald is our protagonist, and she's stuck in this family, and her father is this billionaire titan who's just, constantly outmaneuvering and dominating his rivals. And,
Mhm.
as I designed the first arc, there was this question of like, does her father, Eric, have a particular goal in mind during this arc? Is he trying to win something big or something important? And the reality is no. No, he is Gordon Gecko out of Wall Street. He's always trying to win. There's nothing more he really needs. He has
Right.
everything. And so it's not some diabolical master plan at hand here. This is just business
Yeah.
as usual is barbarism. It's just, there's nothing he wants. It's just another company. It's just another this. It's just another that. And that matter of factness makes it that much more, you know, uh, confrontational. It's just like,
Right.
wow. Like, so yeah, having them treat their wealth and their power with such frivolousness. It's just so
Yeah.
matter of fact. It really makes for great villains.
Yeah, I mean, that's makes it more diabolical, is the fact that he's
Yeah.
not he's not trying to take over the world. In essence, he kind of already has it. It's
Yes.
just, yeah. So yeah, I think that's definitely interesting. But good,
Yeah.
and but also like stories about um power and the balances of power are something that I've been seeing from you, because it also kind of transitions into Masterminds. Like you
Yeah.
have you have a
Secret
story of,
society. Yeah.
yeah, of a guy that's, dealing with a secret society, and he's just like, he's playing this game, and I'm, like one of the things that interests me about the stories is that I'm trying to uncover what the game is at the same time the character is.
Yeah.
Was that something that was kind of on your mind? Was there an inspiration behind Masterminds, or was it
I
just
mean, I guess definitely. I guess I have something in the world about power in the past couple of years.
yeah.
It's on my mind. Um, yeah, and I think I don't know if it was my experiences, personally, as I tried to find my own way in comics and in entertainment, or in general, like looking at the world. But I definitely feel like I'm a pretty positive guy. I try to be hopeful and believe the best in people. But in recent years, my ideas about what it takes to be successful,
Mhm.
to be really successful, really to be really, really successful. I can't help but now believe that hard work and talent and dedication are not enough. You have to
Yeah.
be, you have to be, you have to be cutthroat, and or at least I see enough stories of people gaming the system to get ahead. And so Masterminds was very much about me kind of saying to the world and saying to the readers, are you guys feeling this too? Are you guys feeling the gamification of success where like there are people out there who play this game and get ahead without hard work, without talent, but just with willing to do whatever it takes, and that dedication to immorality is enough to propel them forward? And what kind of world are we living in if we are allowing that? And should we want to be part of that? And what do you guys want to be part of that kind of? And what would you do for success if if the real game was unveiled to you and you had the ability? What would you do? And so that out of that was this very noir thriller, very Fincher-esque, about a young man, you know, trying to join the world's smartest secret society. And then the fun part of it all was exactly what you talk about, was like, again, saying, if we have this kind of game device here, like how many different ways can we allow the readers to feel like they're playing the game too? And can we create puzzles and riddles and
Right.
challenges that pause just enough in the reading experience that make it just feel a little more elevated, a little more experiential as a comic series? And so we had a lot of fun stuff, Stephen Thomas and I, um, doing that. Really, really a lot of fun building that world out. We have one more issue to
Yeah.
go. Comes out in a month or so. So very excited. We've had to take our time with it. Stephen Thompson is another amazing artist. Good Lord, he's so good. And the level of detail and cinematic quality that he brings to the work is
Yeah.
so exquisite. And I never want to rush an artist who's bringing that level of talent. So we decided to make sure we got this story right. So some of the issues have taken a little bit longer to get out, but very excited to bring the conclusion of that and then bring it to trade to everybody who's been waiting for it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, it's
yeah.
definitely been worth it because,
Thank you.
yeah, and which is another reason I wanted to talk to you, because it's such a big, in my opinion, kind of switch to go from Masterminds to Only the Savage Left. Like, because you're
Yeah.
going from kind of like, these secret societies and corporate monsters to real monsters.
Yeah.
So kind of what was the idea behind Only the Savage Are Left? I think I kind of have a little bit of an idea, because I'm gonna be honest, there are a lot of, I've been seeing, because I read like 15, 20 comics a week. So I know in the last few years I've been seeing a lot of infection type stories
Sure.
come out of the
Sure.
COVID era. Was that something that kind of connected you with the
No,
story?
I
Was
don't
it
think this
something?
idea was born out of COVID, although the influence of living in a outbreak, living through COVID, I definitely tried to permeate the story with that sort of modern energy so that we do feel like this is an outbreak post COVID for sure. But I'll go back. I mean, I think in terms of like the jumping genres, this is always it's funny. On the one hand, I remember starting with Eclipse, and Eclipse was sci-fi. I love sci-fi. Right after that, I followed it with Port of Earth. And I kind of immediately decided, like, I'm gonna be a sci-fi guy. I'm gonna start with my roots in sci-fi. I'm gonna tell science fiction stories. I love science fiction stories, but I really didn't want to just tell the same kind of hard sci-fi stories again and again. And I like to marry genres. I like to do sci-fi thrillers. I like to do all sorts of different things. So that was why I took on, Lost City Adventures was a YA adventure, just with a hint of science fiction. Join the Future is a sci-fi western. Mindset is a sci-fi thriller. So I like to try to like jump around and experience different stories, and I'm doing that more and more as I go on with my journey as a storyteller. And so Dark Empty Void was my first cosmic
Mhm.
horror series. Mastermind is like the most pure thriller. There's actually really nothing science fiction about it.
Yeah.
It's just a thriller. Kill All Immortals is almost more supernatural than an action than anything else. So I'm still kind of expanding, genre types of stories, and I like to bounce around. I like to tell a dark noir thriller in 1 minute and then switch and do Only the Savage Are Left is a adventure. It's an
Yeah.
adventure story, and it's a love story. It's one of my, I think, my most I think it's the most love story I've done in a comic. I've played with love
Yeah.
stories before, but this one is a really heartfelt love story. And so, I like to play around, and it is a switch. I like the switch. I like going from my Masterminds to Only the Savage Are Left. But I think the idea just came from me thinking about the zombie and monster post-apocalyptic story, which I love. I love Walking
Right.
Dead. I love Last of Us. And just wondering if there was a different question here. What if you could save yourself from turning? What if you were bit, but before you go zombie, you could save yourself? What would you do? And adding that device creates such a fascinating moral quandary, because in Walking Dead, you're just running, you're hiding from zombies, and then you're fighting other scavengers, and it becomes a very kind of, typical man versus man in the post-apocalyptic world. And we've seen that play out again and again. Civilization collapses, there's no laws, there's no government, it's going to be man versus man. Okay. But that doesn't have anything to do with zombies. That's only about the post-apocalyptic
Yeah. I've
world.
always seen The Walking Dead as like they're talking about the people, not the
The
zombies.
people.
Yeah. The
Right, the
people are the
people.
Walking Dead.
Right. So how can we inject an actual moral quandary into the act of turning into a monster? And would you become a monstrous person to avoid becoming a monster,
Yeah. Right.
essentially?
Yeah.
And and so that's the framework of Only the Savage Are Left. And then once I have that, it's like, okay, this is a story about a guy who is a good guy. He's a pacifist, he's nonviolent, he wants to be a good guy. And how does he confront this? And yeah, it's definitely about the world we live in today. It's definitely about
Yeah.
living in a world where I feel like the level of violence and savagery that we have been um, exposed to and that has become normal it's crazy. It's
Yeah.
absolutely crazy. And I don't know what we're supposed to do about it, so I write this story.
Well, that would definitely be a pitch that would work on me because it's basically just saying, how do you stay a good person when the rest of the world is, you know, is is
Bad.
is bad
Yeah.
and kind of forcing you to make a decision. Like,
Yeah.
do you kind of retain who you are as a good person, or do you have to? Can a good person do bad things and still be good? And
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm definitely kind of seeing a lot of that in the first issue because you're having a lot of these different types of groups. I mean, you're having like the dealing with the government, you having to deal with um the society that he comes from, and
Sure.
the way they've segregated themselves from everything, and is
Yeah.
was that the right move or not? And and then you're dealing with like this young woman and her father and what they've had to do, and then you got like these Mad Max kind of
Yep.
like Cormac McCarthy the Road type, guys
Yeah.
hanging around as well. Like there are a lot of really different elements, but then that kind of goes into my question about the process, like your writing process. Do you have a big overarching vision for the story, or is it something where like you kind of outline what you want to introduce and then kind of allow the story to take it to take it where it's going to go?
Yeah, I mean, this is currently set for 5 issue series. Will we go more with this? We're getting a lot of hype right now. It is really grateful. I mean, we're grateful. It's really awesome. The early response and what's coming has been really exciting. I mean, so exciting. So, will we do more? We might. We have to talk about it and look at it. I go into any series, especially a series like this. I can obviously see the legs to this series. Like, obviously,
Mhm.
this series has legs. Um, but I don't know the outcome of what's going to happen. So I do plan this like a season of television. I do plan it like, we're going to get to the end and we're going to give readers closure on this chapter and this experience. But are there more chapters that we could do?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But in terms of charting out this story as we have it before us, yeah, it's very much about thinking about this protagonist, Ryder, and where he starts and where he's going and the challenge that he's facing. And he is going from living a sheltered existence to being thrown into this world, thrown into a world that where other people have been like his love interest, Oakland, has been living in this world for years, for 5 years with her father, with these other Mad Max types of marauders that are out there, and they've all been struggling, and Ryder's being thrown into this world for the first time in our story. So we definitely are, going to get to watch him react to it all and see how it challenges him. And I think coming up with the different worldviews of all these other characters that he encounters is really at its core all about finding different ways to challenge his own experience and ask him these tough questions of what would you do and how would you face a world that keeps pushing you to be savage too and keeps urging you to be a bad person even for love and what will you do? And I think it's really it's a powerful question, and we take the responsibility of asking that question seriously. We're trying to give readers a very powerful story with this. Um, so yeah, it's been a lot of fun to dive into that and create a world where there are these characters that can challenge him.
Yeah, and I think that's again one of the things that I've enjoyed about the first issue is that no one, even as good a person as Ryder is in the story, there are there are choices to be made, and not all of those choices are necessarily bad. Like just seeing in as far as what's happened with Oakland and her father,
Yeah.
like that's it. That's probably the thing that kind of hooked me, especially like that the end of the issue. I'm not going to spoil it for anyone that hasn't read it, but just kind of that hook, that line that he says to Ryder. I was just like, okay, it just opens up the possibility of so many different things for the story going forward.
Yeah.
Like, do you kind of see this story kind of maybe going beyond the page? Do you see this as something that could be, because again, it's another like cinematic uh story.
Yeah.
Do you see this
I,
as something that could be like a series or a movie?
absolutely. I mean, but I think as a storyteller, I oftentimes come up with big hooks. I'm a big hook writer. Uh, you know, Immortal Vikings living present day as a billionaire family. Uh, I have a book coming out just in a couple months called The Smart Division with John Pearson, our follow up to Mindset. What if AI helped you commit the perfect crime? Two detectives have to hunt down the first AI crime app. I mean, this, that's a hook I'm sure Hollywood will be salivating over. So I do tend to have that sort of kind of predisposition to come up with ideas in that way. But I all and obviously who of course I would love to see all my ideas adapted for film and television. Who am I kidding? But I do also really, especially as I go forward in my career here, try to use the comics medium and the collaboration with my artists and my creative team to tell the best comic story possible, to ask myself, how can I push the emotionality of a page? How can I create a visual look that is unique to this comic series and gives readers something really that blows them away? So I do very much focus on that, but obviously I would love in the same way I think this comic series also could have legs if we decide to do more with it. There's a lot of potential to see the story. But I think at the core, this first chapter, the story that readers will begin this Wednesday is really the love story between Ryder and Oakland, and it's this, and she's equally a character that you fall in love with, and you get to know her more as the story goes. But I mean, this is a girl that does what it takes to survive, and
Right.
she's had a hard life, and this is who she is, and it's so she's overflowing with bravery and the willingness to defend the people she cares about, and but she's not a pacifist, not a pacifist. And I don't think that, I think that I don't, it's like being nonviolent. I don't, that doesn't always work, in life. Violence is a natural thing, and you have to sometimes be violent, and so you have to sometimes not be violent. And I think that it's an interesting conversation. When is it okay to be violent? When is it okay to be savage? Is there a
Right.
time and a place for savagery? Does that mean that we're bad people?
Also,
I
who gets to determine what savagery really means? Like,
Yeah,
who gets to determine what is, if this action is savage in relation to what could happen if you don't act? Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, savage also implies this kind of animalistic quality to it. So can a violent act not be savage,
Right.
And so there's just so much. It's 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 interesting. And I think that the by hanging this whole conceit on this idea that you can save yourself from turning into a monster, it really opens up this kind of this thought-provoking moral question about, how we face a world full of monsters and a world gone mad. But it's also, we're getting deep here, but it's also like a fun adventure
Yeah.
with monsters and action, and Stefano Raffaele like paints such a beautiful world. Jago Rocha does the colors, and like it's so gorgeous. I'm really so happy and excited for readers to check out the world and the monsters and the fun that we've got.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely on board, especially with that first
Thanks.
issue. So so yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because again, I love genre stuff, but two, I love anything that kind of challenges uh genre and the reader and the characters, and it's definitely
Yeah.
doing a lot of that in this first issue. But one of the questions I always ask, especially kind of like wrapping up, especially to people who are in the industry, um, what would be like if you were if if no one knew that you were a comic book writer, and but they
The
asked you.
normal everyday life when I just go to the
Okay, so
grocery store.
normal everyday life. They didn't know you were in the comic book industry, and they asked you. Let's say you were in a local comic book store, and somebody walked up and asked you, "Hey, what do you what comics do you think I should read? Like, what would kind of be your recommendations? Like, they can be your own stories. They can be stories that inspire,
Just any comic at
like
all.
any comic at all. Absolutely.
It's a good question. What would I recommend? Um,
like one of the examples I always give. I'm not in the industry, but I always give like
Yeah.
if someone asked me, I'd say like Chris Claremont's God Loves Man Kills, the X-Men story is something I kind of always. I know a lot of people recommend Dark Knight Returns, but God Love Man Kills is one of those stories I kind of always point to people and say, this is what the X-Men are, what they've been, and what they should be. So yeah.
Yeah. It's a great question. I mean, what's randomly popped into my mind that I feel like I've been asked this question before, but
Mhm.
what popped in my mind this time was something like I Hate Fairyland,
Okay.
by Scotty Young, because it's just funny as hell. And it's just
Yeah.
like,
And
and it's like you want to see something but it's adult,
yeah.
and it's like you want to see something that's funny and adult. And I feel like you can read something like that and you can immediately go, I'd like to read more of this right now, please. Like this is so entertaining. Um,
And it can be.
the things that I love, like I love Deadly Class. I feel like Deadly
Mhm.
Class is such a great kind of anti-establishment sort of like, young person adventure, and it's got so much heart to it. I love that kind of story, but it's not as broad as some other things. So,
Definitely.
I've never really thought about the broadest thing that someone could, but I mean, that's what's so great about comics, right now. I mean, you've got so many amazing stories being told in such interesting ways, so yeah, I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm
I'm on
not
the
trying to.
spot, Darren. How could you
Yeah,
do that to me? Good
I
Lord.
wasn't trying to. It was really just more kind of like, what are the books I think, what are in essence kind of what were the books that kind of influenced you? And if and
Oh,
I
that
hate,
influence.
yeah,
Yeah, I
I,
mean, I'll tell you, Remender was one of my go-tos. I mean, whether it's, Tokyo Ghost or Deadly Class or Black Science,
mhm,
Fear Agent, like I come back to that stuff again and again because again, big hooks, great artists that bring such a unique visual style, a lot of heart, a lot of thought-provoking questions. These, I do the stories in my own way, but I think I gravitate towards the same kind of DNA, and I loved Remender's work, and I love Brian K. Vaughan. Brian K. Vaughan, a different tone than mine, but love the storytelling. Private Eye, or of course Saga, and Why the Last Man. So I think those were big influences on me getting in and seeing what comics could be in a different way. But I also recognize that like nowadays there's some new stuff that's going on. That Dennis Camp is doing some
yeah,
amazing stuff. 20th Century Men is so damn good, and there's a lot of great stuff going on. So there's always different kinds. I'll go at conventions and people will come to my table and say,
mhm,
what do you recommend? I'm like we've talked about, Darren. Like I got westerns and I've got thrillers and I've got monsters and I've got it. Like what do you like? So it's everyone likes different stuff, but it's a great time for comics and yeah.
absolutely. And I think kind of my last question that I usually roll out is, and this one is kind of gonna put you a little bit on the spot.
Oh, go for it.
So you give you a chance to think about it. Um, if there were and you don't have to tell me what it is. I don't want any details, but just like if there was a character from another comic that you could write, that you had a story for, that uh who would it be?
From any comic, just
From any comic. Like I've had people tell me they would love to do I think the last interview I did someone Bree Williams said she would love to do like a Dead Man comic or a Zatanna comic, like something like that.
yeah. I mean, I do love Green Lantern. I love cosmic adventure, and yeah, you got to ring that.
Yeah.
Darkest Day. Yeah, yeah, I would love, but this question comes to me often too, and I'm torn on it because I very much want to be able to bring my own creative vision to the stories that I explore. And so I know full well that the opportunity to tell any character you want,
Yeah.
it has to, there are different ways that opportunity comes. But if I had carte blanche, if Jim called me personally and said, Zach, we want to let you do whatever you want to do. Yeah, I would say I'd love to do a Green Lantern thing. And I would love to explore the galaxy in the same way that I love what we're doing in Only the Savage Are Left and exploring tough moral questions and good characters that are challenged against a world that is maybe not so good.
Right.
Um, I would enjoy that story very much, and I would enjoy that sort of energy in a Green Lantern story. And I think that is indicative of Green Lantern stories. But yeah, I'll go with that one.
Well, I can see that because like in a lot of the stuff that you write, I can see kind of like a gritty, like there, you have your sci-fi elements, but there are still like
Yeah,
gritty, grounded characters. And I've
100%.
always, and that's one of the things I've always loved about Green Lantern as a character, especially like John Stewart and Hal and even Guy to a certain extent, is that these are like human beings who've been just kind of thrust
Yeah.
into intergalactic conflict.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah,
I actually don't like larger than life characters. I
yeah,
like larger than life worlds, and
worlds, yes,
I like ordinary characters who have greatness thrust upon them and who
right,
must rise to the occasion. I mean, Frey in Kill All Immortals is as aloof and divorced from the
mhm,
agency of the world as you can get when we meet her. She wants nothing to do with her family. She wants nothing to do with being an immortal. She wants nothing to do with the struggles that are going on. She'd like to help people so she can absolve herself of her own guilt.
right,
And she's quite regular, short of being quite good at combat. And
hmm,
she's thrust into a world gone mad. She's thrust into greatness.
yeah,
And I love those stories. And um yeah, and look, there's a lot of different ways to do Green Lantern and do those kinds of stories. My take would be let's thrust the weight of the galaxy upon a person like this, and let's see them challenged with it. Let's see them have to ask tough questions. That's to me the most fascinating aspect of it.
gotcha. All right, well, Zach Kaplan, thank you again so much for being on. Like,
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. I am absolutely again, as like I said before, I'm on board with Only the Savage Are Left, but what God, I don't want to be spoiled at all. I don't want to be spoiled, but
For Only the Savage Are Left.
yeah, there's just so many different things that I want to ask you about the story itself, but which I which I think I will probably like reach out to you after the arc is over
Sure.
to kind of do a recap. But I am really enjoying it, and
Thank
thank
you.
you so much for being on.
Thank you.
I usually kind of transition out and well, because you had already because the last question I usually always ask is like, is there any you're working on anything else? And you kind of already told me, so I
Yeah.
incorporate
However
that.
you want to do. Yeah. Do you want to
Yeah.
wrap it? I can say it again, whatever you want.
No, no, no. Like I got it because then I'm gonna clip it as well. But
Great.
I'll transition out. I'm gonna go ahead and work on this tonight, and I want to have it. I'll have it up. Oh, you know what? Just do a pause. Zach Kaplan, if you wanted people to find you on social media, where can they
I'm happy to have people find me on social media. I'm on all platforms pretty much at zackcaps.com. Or Zack Caps. And then I've got a website, zackkaplan.com. And yeah, definitely let me know what you think of Only the Savage Are Left. It's hitting chops this week, and we're very proud of it. So would love to hear what you think. Thank you.
find? All right, thank you so much. All right, so then I'll